Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Big Blue Banter podcast, or whatever it honestly is called. Just True Blue Talk, I think is actually called. We're back for a draft episode here, kind of breaking down what the Giants did a really big couple of days. A lot of high remarks from around the league, kind of a recovery of their image. Any opening thoughts, kind of on the moves they made?
Well, I didn't expect them to jump back into the first round for a quarterback, but I guess I guess Dart wasn't going to survive to day two. But I think it was a good move, honestly. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I think we had a stellar round one, and the whole draft, honestly, was a home run for Joe Shane.
I agree. I mean, we could start off at the number three pick, which I think was just
Hmm.
like, oh my God. So I've talked to a lot of different Giants fans. Some of them wanted Travis Hunter. I really didn't. From
He
what I,
wasn't going to be there at three anyway.
yeah, and even if he was, what I've heard from people is that and maybe he'll be a generational talent, change the game. I mean, I'm sure people said this about Otani before he did it too, but like people, from what I've heard, have said he's good at both, but he's not, that star-studded blue chip at both. And they don't know how that's going to transition. Like he's probably going to have to end up picking one. But to me, Abdul Carter is just like this is a LT type player. Like I know that's big remarks. Maybe I'm
Hmm.
wrong, but this guy just has a dog in him. I think this was his first year at edge, or maybe it was linebacker group, whatever it was. But he was so dominant in his first year because he's just like fantastic athlete and just wins above all else.
Yeah, he's always going to win at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage there. And I think they talked about, getting tough guys throughout the draft. And he's definitely a freak of nature. He's definitely tough on that line. And you got Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter. I think that's going to be a scary D line next year.
And a lot of people will say, like, why would you put overkill at this position? I mean, the Giants D line, I believe, was leading the league in sacks last year up to like week 7. I saw some stat on that.
Until Dexter got injured.
Hmm.
But he was carrying the line, to be honest, at that
Yeah,
point in the year.
and
And the
like
four of them on the line together were rotating in and out. That should be a pretty fantastic line.
it's going to be incredible to watch. And I just think like so Kayvon Thibodeau is the big hot topic because some people were angry about it that they picked up his fifth year option as well. I think it's a good move because one, what are you getting for Kayvon Thibodeau right now? Two, if he's playing with a guy like Abdul Carter, he's going to look so much better that even if you don't want him, he gets so much more value. So I think
they'll
that's the
both
move.
they'll both be better rested when they go in for their reps because they're obviously going to be rotating in and out.
No, I
So
think
I guess you'll get higher production from all four of them, well, all three of them rather.
No, this is going to be like the most disgusting line in a while. And everybody's kind of saying like the Giants they thought they had the identity with the D line last year. Brian Burns in there, obviously Kayvon, Dexter. We kind of thought that was going to be it. And then, it was okay, but they couldn't stop the run. So, if you can't stop the run, you're never getting an opportunity to even pass rush. Now it's very clear like they're going to be monsters. Um, and it's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, this was a good pick, and a lot of people were worried that since the Jags had traded up, they would get scared and pick Shador and Browns and backpedal. I don't know if you believe that. I always kind of felt like everything was a smokescreen and it was Abdul Carter if they got their hands on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about this the last episode of the last couple episodes, but I don't think either of us ever really had Shador that high on our boards. I don't think I never thought he was going to be a top five pick, and I think you were in the same boat there.
Yeah, like I don't think I would say if you asked me a while back, I would say the Giants were going to probably reach on him because he is a guy who I could see being a high pick, but he's nowhere near being that good. It's just he just happens to be. I mean, now I don't even know what he is like fifth drafted QB in this class, but at the time he's second best QB in the class, third best QB in the class in a weak class. So like people sometimes overvalue it. I thought he would go top 20 personally. Um, I did think people would reach on him and put him there. I think the Browns got him at incredible value in the fifth round. But I think what I kind of want to talk about now is listen, the Abdul Carter, there's really not much to talk about. This guy is going to be a dog. The defense is going to be really good. I mean, you and I talked about last
Well,
episode.
the front seven will be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think the secondary is still a little iffy, but we'll see how things turn out. As we actually start playing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think listen, the two guys they signed we talked about are high ceiling, but they
Hmm.
can get injured.
Also low floor. So yeah,
Exactly.
we'll see.
And, Deontay Banks is kind of in the last year where it's kind of like, are you an Evan Neal or are you going to make that turn into a first round talent? So it's going to be interesting to watch. Um, but I don't know what you were thinking on this draft day because you and I were texting about what was going on. I don't, were you watching the draft or were you
I
like
wasn't
out?
watching the broadcast live, no.
So I don't remember when I tuned back in because I think I was at Woodstock Syracuse Mets for the Carter pick. And then probably around like pick 16, I kept seeing should or Dart falling. And Dart was my guy. I don't know, like, did you want a quarterback in general, or did you have your
I
eyes on?
wasn't sure if this year was the right year for a quarterback. I hadn't done a lot of research. I mean, I knew Cam Ward was going to go number one overall. I think every that was pretty much consensus. And I was never high on Shador, and I figured the rest of the class was pretty weak.
Yeah, no, I
I
definitely
think we
wasn't.
talked about this last time. I wasn't high on a quarterback this draft, but I'm not disappointed either.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, there is some things that like, he's not very good in the clutch, which is kind of scary. I saw that he wasn't doing good in like 2 minute offenses, things like that. But some people, one thing that stuck out to me about Dart, I mean, get in a little bit to the fall and to the build up because I do want to defend them trading back in. A couple people like on the fan and stuff would say that the Giants have to stop drafting based off of Eli. Like, Daniel Jones was supposedly the next Eli, and now Dart's from Ole Miss. But I don't know that many people are saying this. If they are, they're so unbelievably stupid because there's such a big difference between Duke's schedule and Ole Miss's schedule, and it's not even funny. Like, I looked into this kid. He's played a lot of top-ranked opponents. The SEC is very professionalized. He's going to get a year to sit behind some of these guys and kind of realize how to throw. And I think the thing that I love the most about him is it's way easier to put a horse on a leash and kind of rein him in a little bit more than to kind of take the leash off and get him going, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Fair enough. And I think your Daniel Jones comparison is interesting because they drafted Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones and Eli Manning had the same college coach. So I think that they were really looking for the next Eli Manning there. I think the fact that Jackson Dart went to Ole Miss is an interesting coincidence, but I don't think it really had any stock on why they chose to draft him.
No, I agree. I mean, I see the thing is that some people were bringing this up and it was unbelievably like aggravating.
Yeah.
Because listen, these are the same people that just said the Giants need a quarterback. And like you and I
Hmm.
were in a similar spot of if they get one, great. If they don't, they're not going to
Yeah.
be competitive
We're
next
not
year.
missing it. We're probably, I mean, maybe I could be wrong, but my thought before the draft was we're not missing out on any generational talents here. Hopefully, Dart can be that, but in the pre-draft analysis, that's not what I was looking at.
Yeah, and I have a lot of faith in Dart. I have a lot more than Jones. I love a guy who's able to be mobile and get out. I always like a guy that's got the clutch gene. I feel like you can't really teach that. You sometimes you either got it or you don't. But the Giants haven't had even a serviceable quarterback in so long that honestly, a problem where this guy just chokes in big games. We'll get to that bridge when we get there. Like if
Yeah,
you
we
on
have to get
talent.
to big games in the first place.
Exactly. Like I'm not going to worry about the clutch gene for, a 21-year-old kid going to be 22 this year when we haven't played a big game in a while besides one outlier year, you know? Absolutely
Hmm.
nothing I'm thinking about there. Can't be getting angry.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have an opportunity to learn from some of the better quarterbacks in the league right now. You know, Russ has obviously been on the decline for the last couple of years, but he's still Super Bowl winner. He's still very decorated, one of the statistically probably top 15 quarterbacks all time. I think Dart will benefit a lot from that. And Winston will also be in the room. He's been in a million systems. He knows what's up. So I'm
Yeah.
not worried about his development at this point.
No, I think that's perfect for the development. I think it's great, the Winston move too, because it completely gives Dart, like even if one guy goes down, he keeps getting a break, to kind of sit, which is great. Um, so I absolutely love that pick. And then I kind of think, obviously, day two, you didn't get a pick. A lot of guys were falling. But you had to make the trade, I do believe, mainly because, at least what I heard, everyone's hearing different things. No one will ever know. Was that, and I'm not in any way an insider, so what does this tweet that I read mean? But that Sean McVay was planning on drafting Dart as kind of the next Matt Stafford in LA. And the Giants traded up with the Falcons because they knew they had to get in. And that's why when the Giants took Dart, the Rams immediately traded back and got a haul, which also,
That's what I heard as well.
yeah. So
We, I guess that bodes well for Dart's potential. And again, we have to remember Dable is the guy who developed Josh Allen. So if he can do that, I'm sure he can work his magic with Dart. At least his
exactly.
job depends on it.
And you know what? That's another big thing from this before we move on to kind of the rest of the draft class is that a lot of people have said this, and I agree. Like the Brian Dable experiment would not be complete if you didn't bring him in here to do what he was brought in to do, which is to have
Develop
his
a
hands on a young
quarterback.
QB. You know,
hmm
it,
By the time he got to Daniel Jones had already played what 4 years in the NFL, or maybe three.
a
I
good
forget
amount,
exactly, but still,
probably
he was
20.
pretty seasoned and pretty stuck in his ways by that point. Dable
Yeah,
couldn't do much with him. He extracted as much out of him as he could that first season, but other than that, there's nothing really to do.
like he got a good amount out of Daniel Jones. Obviously, that first season. You look at some of the other guys. I mean, Drew Lock wasn't too bad under him. Tommy
Tommy
DeVito,
DeVito,
he got an
he pulled
exceptional
a
amount out of.
yeah for an undrafted rookie free agent who was barely expected to make the practice squad. He pulled a lot out of that kid.
Yeah, so I mean, it's all at the end of the day, it's all shots in the dark, and it really comes down to, I mean, the skill, but also like the tenacity of the kid you pick up. How much does he want to be good or great even? And I do think that Dart kind of has that mentality to me that I like in these first two picks. Then kind of moving towards the third. So a lot of guys were falling here. I mean, my personal favorites are going to be the fourth and fifth pick. I think this one's still a good one because it's a good depth pick for defensive tackle. Darius Alexander, a lot of
hmm
guys had him high on their board. The Giants had a draft class where, I mean, besides Dart and Carter, really, guys fell way back and they took him, which has a lot of potential. Guys do fall for a reason as well. But I think they have a high ceiling. And Darius Alexander, I think, fits that. I think he's going to be a nice addition to just shore it up even more.
hmm Yeah, like we've talked about already, the D line is pretty set, but depth is always good. And if you can give Dexter a little bit of rest every now and then, that only extracts more production out of him when he's on the field.
And then, Alexander, obviously people like that pick. One of my personal favorites, and Mike Francesa's even like talking about this guy in the fourth round about how he's going to be fantastic. Cam Skatibo falling
Yes.
to them at 105. Guy literally ran into telephone poles to practice. I don't honestly, I thought that was a joke at first, and then like there was a quote of his mom saying it. So I don't know what to believe, but this kid is just like an absolute dog. Absolutely wants to win at all costs. He's going to be very nicely paired with Tyrone Tracy. I love
hmm
the backfield.
Yeah, and our running back room was never really shored up, never really secured to begin with. So I think he has a chance to come in, compete, and start on day one.
I agree.
And
And
if he's as good as he seemed in college, I think we have a pretty good chance of having consistent running back production for a while now.
I agree. I think running back is kind of a shored up position now. Obviously, quarterback, like there's not much more you can ask for that they did this offseason. You have your wide receiver one. And I think just he's going to be the kind of guy that's kind of a nice backbreaker because when you get to that third and one and it gets kind of close and the Giants just can't get it because either Tracy gets stopped or, they just can't force the ball over. This guy is just going to run through people. Like third and ones are just going to be very easy for them, which I think is big. I think they've made a lot of adjustments on the run game. Like Alexander was made to finally shore up that run defense. And now this one's made offensively to just offset Tracy and just have a couple dogs in there, which I absolutely love.
Definitely.
I think
And I
out of that,
think
what'd you
no,
say?
you go. You go.
No, you got it.
No, I just think that I think our offense is looking a lot better than generally than it was a couple months ago. When you think about Russell Wilson, he still has the deep ball, if not for nothing else. We got Malik, we got Jalen Hyatt, who might finally break out this season. and now we've got a short up running game. I think the only piece left is the offensive line, which we can talk about later, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, and this kind of plays right into it. I honestly have not been, this excited about like a late round pick that I can imagine. Because Marcus Bowe in the fifth round is like extremely good value. Um, Obviously before we get to this pick, like Evan Neal just got announced he's moving to guard. I think that's big. I have no faith in the guy.
This
Um,
is the same thing that happened to Eric Flowers, if you remember that.
yeah, so yeah,
So we'll see. I mean, at this point, who cares?
I'm not gonna be
If
like.
he can be productive, then sure, good for him. But if not, most fans had already written him off years ago.
hmm I mean, after his whole burger flipping comment, I don't even know that I was rooting for him anymore.
hmm
But nonetheless, they've made a lot more depth on the line. Marcus Bowe, I actually think can make the team out of camp. I really think this kid could be a starting tackle. I mean, he was projected in like the third round on most boards. I don't know why he fell. The Giants were going to take him or Skativo at 4, and they somehow ended up getting both, which was absolutely incredible. I watched him fall too. I can't believe they got him in the fifth round. I don't know what your thoughts are on this one. I'm so excited for this kid.
Yeah, I mean, from the little I've seen of him, he seems pretty talented, and we need as much help as we can get on the line, which is something Giants fans have been saying for the last like 15 years. But maybe this is the year it finally happens. And I think if he doesn't work out, which is a genuine possibility considering he fell so much, like you said, guys do fall for a reason. But if he doesn't work out, we didn't lose out on too much. And if he works out, we have a really good tackle for a really long time.
Yeah, and what I heard about him is he's got really good footwork. One of the major problems being more in like his strength.
hmm
Um,
But that can be built up. Footwork is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit more of an art form, you know?
exactly. If it's going, I mean, listen, you're picking a guy in the fifth round. He's not a blue chip prospect.
Yeah.
And if
He's a
his,
project, and that's the point.
yeah, and like if the projected part is, hey, buddy, like you gotta get more reps in the weight room, that's a pretty good problem if he's got the
hmm
fundamentals down of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm excited for him. I mean, you got a Luminor out there. I think he'll be solid. I think the key to this offseason has been more depth, but I think that also opens up for Bo because the competition in front of him really isn't that great besides
hmm
like a Luminor.
Yeah.
And even when guys go down,
hmm
the opportunities will arise for him. So it'll be interesting. I know Thomas, I mean, Thomas always gets hurt. So
When he's healthy, he's one of the best, but he's almost never healthy. So,
yeah, exactly. Like, and that just sucks.
hmm
But the top four are really, really nice picks all around. Just beautiful work from the Giants to fill out the roster. The only reason I'm not higher on this team is because reality is reality. You have
hmm
one of the
Yeah.
toughest schedules in the NFL.
And we've watched this team go into the beginning of the season with high hopes and collapse immediately.
Yeah.
Pretty much like 4 out of the last 5 years.
I think they will be around the five. I think they'll be competitive in almost every game, though, even though they're playing good teams.
hmm
But I can't tell you they're going to be, up to that next level because they got hard outside their division, and their division is just incredible now with the Commanders
hmm
taking off. Eagles are the Super Bowl champions. Dallas is falling apart at the seams, but they're still Dallas, and they still
They've still
always
got talent, but the
exactly.
coaching might be a big problem this year, but we'll see.
Yeah. So I mean, if you have any chance, you have to beat Dallas twice and like split with either Philly or the
And for
Commanders.
some reason, we can never manage to beat Dallas. Even when they suck and we're good, it just doesn't happen for some
Even
reason.
last season, I mean,
Yeah.
Mahomes gets that concussion on the sideline
hmm
and the feet like it's just a headache. So listen, I think Shane has nailed his last two draft classes. I like this one because I know guys fall, but I really when you get to these later picks here, just take your shots on guys with high ceilings because
hmm
reality is reality. Do you really care? Like if you get a
What are
depth
the odds that a sixth round pick sticks around in the league that often to begin with?
exactly.
You know?
That's why I love the draft he's had. I thought he had a good one last year. I mean, he did Tracy and Drew Phillips at the nickel corner has been great. Obviously, neighbors. We'll see what we see from Nubbin out there. Um, but he's really started to find it. Problem is, I can't tell you. You know, a lot of people are really high on this Giants team now. I'm It's tough. It's tough because they got a hard schedule. And as much as I do like the moves Shane made this offseason, I like the moves he made last offseason, and they were 3 and
Yeah.
14, you know? And that's the reason I'm not getting paid like to do that. So I don't know what your thoughts are post draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to be excited for this team, but at the same time, experience teaches us that we got to be a little bit skeptical. But at the same time, I like to believe, and I don't see any reason right now that this team isn't going to win at least 6, 7, 8 games next year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we're talented enough to be in the 500 range.
This is
And if
not
not, then I
the
think the house is clean.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think they will be a good enough team. I think that defense is really going to come into form this year. I mean, when they won it, it was always kind of a spontaneous way in the wild card off
Hmm.
of a great defense. I think they have that great defense assembled if they hit their ceilings. Um, it's just going to be that offense, and that's the biggest question mark. I mean, how much does Russ have left in the tank, Is Dart going to be that generational guy? Is this
Hmm.
offensive line going to stay healthy? Because when they were healthy, they were actually pretty good last year.
Yeah.
Just that, Justin Pugh is coming off of his couch in week 7 and the walls are coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't
So I
know.
guess, yeah, we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see what we're gonna see. We'll have one more episode before the season starts, kind of once that schedule's fully out. I mean, that comes out in like 9 days.
Something like that. Yeah.
So 9 days till we get that. Um, and we can kind of do some record predictions, get a better view. I know it's terrible,
We
but
were off by a lot last year.
yeah, so we're gonna see how much we can make an adjustment to being correct this time
We
around.
both had them at 9-8, I think,
Yeah,
last season, right?
we
Yeah,
were
so we were
really
off
high
by
on them.
6 games.
I don't know. I feel like if I were making a prediction right now, I would say six. I would say 6 and 11.
Mhm. That's fair, but I think a lot of those losses might be competitive, which is something we haven't seen in a while.
I
So
agree. But
we'll see.
my question before we go is at 6 and 11 with competitive losses, because I agree with that. I think it'll go either way. I think they're either 6 and 11 or they're going to be like 9 and 8, and that's their range.
Hmm.
What are your is it's 6 and 11 decently competitive losses? Does Shane and Dable come back or is it over?
I think if we see a lot of progress out of Dart, even if he's not starting, but if the people in the building are seeing a lot of promise out of Dart, I think they run it back one more season.
Okay.
But I think if it takes up until the halfway point in the season to get going, I could still see them cleaning house, you know.
I agree with
If we're
that too.
sitting at like 1-7 or something, even if we were to go on a win streak at the end of the season, if we're sitting at 1-7 by the bye or whenever the bye is going to be, then I don't know if Merrick keeps them around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It'll be interesting to watch. I think, we'll have a more clear view once the
Yeah.
schedules drop because then we can see where they'll be at the buy and stuff like that. So, yeah, this was the draft episode. We'll probably be back, I don't know, probably like August, maybe July, just because I'll be gone in August, so I want to get some in maybe earlier. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Bye, everybody.